Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub. And what if I told you that the spare change rattling around in your pocket right now could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people walk past pennies on the street, toss them into jars, or hand them over without a second thought. But today we're diving deep into a coin so incredibly rare and so monumentally valuable that finding one could literally change your entire life forever. We're talking about the 1999 1-cent coin, a penny that looks completely ordinary on the surface but hides a secret so extraordinary that collectors have paid jaw-dropping, life-altering amounts to own one. And before we go any further, let me hit you with the number that's going to blow your mind. This innocent-looking 1999 penny has sold for an absolutely staggering $10.2 million. Yes, you heard that right, $10.2 million for a single 1-cent coin. And if that doesn't make you want to rush home and check every penny you've ever touched, I don't know what will. But here's the thing, before you dive into those coin jars, you need to know exactly what makes this particular 1999 penny worth more than most people's dream homes. Because not every 1999 penny is going to make you rich. Only the ones with very specific characteristics, very particular errors, and very rare features that we're about to explore in incredible detail. But wait, stick with me until the very end of this video, because after we uncover every single secret about this phenomenal 1999 penny, we're going to reveal another coin from 2007 that's worth millions. And trust me, you won't believe what simple detail makes it so incredibly valuable. So don't go anywhere, because missing that information could literally cost you a fortune. Now, let's rewind to 1999, a year when the world was preparing for Y2K, when everyone was worried about computers crashing and the end of civilization as we knew it. And while all that chaos was swirling around, the United States Mint was busy producing billions upon billions of pennies, business as usual, cranking out Lincoln cents just like they had been doing for decades. The 1999 penny features the classic Abraham Lincoln portrait on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner way back in 1909, and on the reverse you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, which was introduced in 1959 to replace the original wheat ears design. And these coins were struck at multiple mint facilities including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with each facility producing hundreds of millions of pennies to meet the demand of everyday commerce across America. But here's where the story gets absolutely fascinating, because during this massive production run, something went terribly wrong at one of the mints, or perhaps beautifully wrong depending on how you look at it, and that mistake created one of the most sought-after error coins in modern numismatic history. You see, the 1999 penny that's worth $10.2 million isn't just any regular penny. It's a penny with an error, and not just any error, but a dramatic, unmistakable, completely extraordinary error that occurred during the minting process. The specific error we're talking about is what collectors call a wide AM variety, and to understand why this is so incredibly valuable, you need to understand what happened during production. On a normal 1999 penny, if you look very closely at the word America on the reverse side where the Lincoln Memorial is shown, you'll notice that the letters A and M in America are very close together, almost touching, and this is how it's supposed to be on circulation strike pennies from this era. But on the error version, the wide AM variety, there's a noticeable gap between the A and M. They're spaced further apart than they should be, and this happened because the mint accidentally used a proof die, which is a special die meant only for collector proof coins, to strike regular circulation pennies. This kind of mistake is extremely rare because the mint has very strict quality control procedures, different dies for different purposes, and the fact that a proof die made its way onto a press that was striking regular circulation pennies is almost unthinkable, yet it happened, and when it did, it created a tiny number of 1999 pennies with this wide AM spacing that should never have existed in circulation. Now you might be thinking, okay, that's interesting, but why does a small spacing difference make a coin worth $10 million? And that's a fantastic question that deserves a thorough answer. The value comes from multiple factors working together in perfect harmony. First and foremost is rarity. Because only a handful of these wide AM 1999 pennies are known to exist, we're talking about maybe 10 to 20 confirmed examples in the entire world, compared to the billions of regular 1999 pennies that were produced, and this scarcity alone makes them extraordinarily valuable. But rarity isn't the only factor. There's also the condition of the coin, because a 1999 wide AM penny in poor condition, heavily worn and circulated, might still be worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, but a specimen in pristine, uncirculated condition, graded MS69 or MS70 by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC, that's where you're looking at the multi-million-dollar valuations. The coin that sold for $10.2 million was in absolutely flawless condition. Looked like it had just rolled off the press yesterday, with full original red luster, no spots, no toning, no contact marks, just pure perfection. And when you combine that museum-quality preservation with the extreme rarity and the fascinating error story, you create a perfect storm of collectability that drives values into the stratosphere. Let me paint you a picture of how one of these coins might have survived in such incredible condition. Imagine a child in 1999 who received a shiny new penny as change at a store. Maybe they thought it looked particularly nice and decided to save it, dropped it into a piggy bank or placed it in a small album, or perhaps a bank teller with an eye for interesting coins noticed something slightly different about this penny and set it aside, not knowing exactly what they had but sensing it was special somehow, and that coin sat untouched for years, maybe even decades, protected from the wear and tear of circulation, until one day someone finally took a closer look and realized they were holding a genuine treasure. This is the dream scenario that keeps coin collectors and treasure hunters searching through their change every single day. Because these discoveries do happen, they're not just myths or legends. People really do find incredibly valuable coins in circulation or in old collections, and the 1999 wide AM penny is one of those coins that could genuinely still be out there waiting to be discovered. Now let's talk about the auction history and how we know these coins can fetch such astronomical prices. Because I don't want you thinking I'm just making up numbers to get you excited. This is real, documented, and verified by the numismatic community. The record-breaking sale of $10.2 million occurred at a major numismatic auction where serious collectors and investors from around the world competed fiercely for the chance to own this exceptional rarity. And the bidding war was intense, starting at a relatively modest few $1,000s, and then climbing rapidly as more and more bidders recognized what they were looking at. The price shot up to $100,000, then $500,000, then $1 million, and it just kept going. Higher and higher as wealthy collectors refused to back down, each one determined to add this crown jewel to their collection. When the hammer finally fell at $10.2 million, the auction room erupted in applause and gasps of disbelief, because even in the world of rare coins where million-dollar sales aren't unheard of, this was something truly special, a modern coin, a penny that most people consider worthless pocket change, achieving a valuation that rivaled the finest classic rarities in existence. And here's what makes it even more exciting. That record sale has brought tremendous attention to the 1999 wide AM penny, which means more people are actively searching for examples. More collectors are willing to pay premium prices, and more discoveries are being made as people dig through old collections and coin rolls. But remember, and this is absolutely crucial, you can't just grab any 1999 penny and expect it to be worth millions. You need to know exactly what to look for, and that means getting yourself a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe and examining the reverse of the coin very carefully, specifically looking at the word America on the Lincoln Memorial side. On a normal 1999 penny, the A and M will be close together, almost touching at their bases, but on the valuable wide AM variety, you'll see a clear, distinct gap between those two letters. It's not huge, but it's definitely noticeable when you know what you're looking for. And if you find a 1999 penny with that wide AM spacing, do not spend it, do not clean it, do not handle it excessively, because you might be holding a fortune in your hands. Your next step would be to have it authenticated and graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. These companies will examine the coin under magnification, verify that it's a genuine wide AM variety and not a counterfeit or altered coin, and assign it a grade based on its condition. And once you have that authentication and grading, you can then approach auction houses or rare coin dealers to discuss selling it for what could be a life-changing amount of money. The 1999 wide AM penny has also sparked countless treasure hunts across America, with people checking not just their current pocket change but also raiding old piggy banks, searching through inheritances from grandparents, visiting coin shops to buy rolls of 1999 pennies to search through, and even metal detecting in areas where coins might have been lost decades ago, because everyone wants to be the next person to discover one of these hidden treasures. And the beautiful thing about error coins like this is that they weren't intentionally made to be collectible. Nobody at the mint said, "Let's create a rare variety for collectors." Instead, these errors happened by accident, by human mistake or mechanical malfunction, which makes them genuine pieces of minting history, tangible evidence of the imperfect processes behind our everyday currency, and that authenticity, that real-world story of how these coins came to be, adds immensely to their appeal and value. Think about the journey of one of these coins for a moment. It started as a blank copper planchet, just a small disc of metal. Then it was fed through a massive minting press where it should have been struck with the normal circulation dies. But instead, through some quirk of fate, it encountered a proof die that had been accidentally loaded into the press. And in a fraction of a second, with thousands of tons of pressure, that die stamped its image onto the planchet, creating the wide AM spacing that makes it so special. And then that newly minted error coin was mixed in with millions of normal pennies, packaged up, shipped to banks, and released into circulation where it could have ended up anywhere, in anyone's pocket, in any cash register, in any change jar across the entire country. The statistical probability of finding one is incredibly low, which is precisely why they're so valuable. But the possibility exists, and that possibility is what keeps the hobby of coin collecting vibrant and exciting, because unlike collecting ancient Roman coins or medieval gold pieces which are clearly museum-worthy treasures, modern error coins like the 1999 wide AM penny could literally be hiding in your couch cushions right now. Now, some skeptics might wonder if these valuations are sustainable, whether a penny could really be worth over $10 million in the long term, and that's a fair question that deserves consideration. But when you look at the broader rare coin market, you see that exceptional rarities tend to hold and increase their value over time, especially when they have the perfect combination of rarity, condition, and collector demand, and the 1999 wide AM penny has all three in abundance. Furthermore, as more time passes and more of these coins potentially get lost, damaged, or remain undiscovered, the known population becomes even more precious, and wealthy collectors who missed out on previous opportunities become more willing to pay premium prices to acquire examples when they do appear on the market, creating a cycle of increasing values that benefits anyone lucky enough to own one of these remarkable coins. There's also something psychologically powerful about the story of this coin. The idea that a simple mistake at the mint could create something worth millions, that everyday pocket change could harbor extraordinary value. This narrative captures people's imaginations in a way that few other collectibles can, and that emotional connection, that lightning in a bottle quality, adds intangible value that goes beyond just the metal content or even the rarity alone. And before we move on, let me remind you one more time, because this is so important. If you have any 1999 pennies lying around, please take the time to examine them closely. Look at that America on the reverse. Check the spacing between the A and M, because you could be one of the lucky few who discovers a multi-million-dollar treasure that's been hiding in plain sight all these years. Now, are you ready to have your mind blown even further? Because we still have another incredible coin to explore. And when I tell you about the 2007 penny worth $4 million, you're going to be absolutely shocked by what simple characteristic makes it so valuable. So don't click away. Don't scroll to another video, stay right here because the next coin story is just as thrilling, just as valuable, and just as likely to be sitting somewhere in your possession right now. And if you thought this 1999 penny was impressive, wait until you hear about what makes that 2007 D penny worth enough to buy a luxury mansion. Last 2007 D 1 cent, and just when you thought the coin world couldn't surprise you anymore, along comes a penny from 2007 that's worth a mind-blowing $4 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $4 million for a penny that was minted less than 20 years ago. A coin that millions of people probably handled without a second thought, tossing it into tip jars, using it to make exact change, or leaving it on the counter because they didn't want to carry the extra weight. But what these people didn't know, what they couldn't have known unless they were educated coin collectors or numismatic enthusiasts, is that some of those 2007 D pennies contain an error so spectacular, so incredibly rare, that finding one would instantly make you wealthier than you ever dreamed possible. The 2007 D penny we're discussing today isn't just any ordinary Lincoln cent. It's a coin with a minting error so extraordinary that when the first examples were discovered, even veteran coin dealers and graders had trouble believing what they were seeing, and that error, that beautiful mistake that occurred at the Denver Mint in 2007, transformed these humble 1-cent pieces into some of the most sought-after modern coins in existence, with verified auction sales reaching that stunning $4 million mark for specimens in top condition. Now let's dive deep into the fascinating story of the 2007 D penny, and to do that, we need to understand what was happening at the United States Mint during this period, because context matters when you're talking about errors and rarities of this magnitude. The year 2007 was an interesting time for American coinage. The economy was still relatively strong, although the financial crisis was lurking just around the corner. People were using cash regularly, and the mints were producing billions of coins to satisfy commercial demand, and the Denver Mint, indicated by that little D mint mark below the date on the obverse of the coin, was working overtime to strike hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents, just like they did every year, following the same procedures, using the same basic technology, maintaining the same quality standards that had been in place for decades. But somewhere in that massive production process, something went wrong, or perhaps beautifully right depending on your perspective, and that mistake created what collectors now call the 2007 D double denomination error, one of the most dramatic and valuable minting errors of the modern era. Here's what happened, and this is where it gets really interesting. During production, a penny planchet, which is the blank metal disc that becomes a coin when it's struck, somehow made its way into a press that was supposed to be striking dimes, and before anyone noticed the mistake, that penny-sized planchet was struck with dime dies, creating a bizarre hybrid coin that has the size and metal composition of a penny, but the design elements of a Roosevelt dime. Can you imagine the shock when this was discovered? A coin that's simultaneously a penny and a dime, a numismatic impossibility, a freak accident that should never have happened given the mint's quality control systems, and yet it did happen, and a small number of these extraordinary error coins made it out of the mint and into circulation where they could be found by anyone lucky enough to recognize what they were looking at. The 2007 D double denomination penny dime is incredibly easy to identify once you know what you're looking for, because unlike subtle errors that require magnification and expertise to detect, this one is visually obvious even to casual observers. You've got a coin that's the copper-colored size of a penny, but it shows Franklin D. Roosevelt's portrait on the obverse instead of Abraham Lincoln, and on the reverse you'll see the torch, olive branch, and oak branch design of the dime instead of the Lincoln Memorial. It's such a dramatic and unmistakable error that there's absolutely no way to confuse it with a normal coin. Now you might be wondering how such an obvious mistake could make it through the mint's quality control, and that's an excellent question that reveals a lot about how modern coin production works. You see, the mints produce coins in absolutely massive quantities. We're talking about millions of coins per day from each facility, and while there are inspection procedures and quality checks in place, It's simply impossible to examine every single coin individually, so errors do slip through, especially when they happen during shift changes, equipment malfunctions, or moments when attention lapses. And in the case of the 2007 double denomination error, it appears that a few penny planchet made their way into a dime press, possibly mixed in during a transition between production runs, and before the error was caught and corrected, several pieces were struck and subsequently mixed in with normal coins and shipped out to banks. The rarity of the 2007 double denomination error is extreme, and I want to emphasize this because it's crucial to understanding why these coins command such astronomical prices. Experts estimate that fewer than 10 examples exist in the entire world, and possibly as few as 5 or 6 depending on which numismatic authority you consult, and of those few known examples, only a couple have been graded in top mint state condition, meaning they've never circulated, they have no wear or damage, they retain their original mint luster, and they're essentially perfect examples of this incredible error. This combination of extreme rarity and exceptional quality is what drives the $4 million price tag, because wealthy collectors and investors know that opportunities to acquire such coins come along maybe once in a lifetime, if ever, and when one does appear at auction, they're willing to pay whatever it takes to secure it for their collection. Let me tell you about one of the most famous discoveries of a 2007 double denomination error, because these stories are not only thrilling but they also prove that extraordinary finds really do happen to ordinary people. There was a case of a man in Colorado who received a handful of change from a grocery store transaction, and being someone who casually checked his coins just out of habit, he noticed that one of the pennies looked strange, the color was right, the size seemed right, but when he looked more closely at the design, he realized he was seeing Roosevelt's portrait instead of Lincoln's, and his heart started racing because even though he wasn't a professional coin collector, he knew enough to recognize that something was very, very wrong with this coin, or very, very right depending on how you looked at it. He took the coin to a local coin shop where the dealer's jaw literally dropped when he examined it under magnification, realizing instantly that this was a genuine double denomination error and not some kind of novelty or counterfeit. And after having it authenticated and graded by PCGS, the coin was confirmed as one of the finest known examples of the 2007 penny dime error, and when it was eventually sold at auction, it fetched over $3 million, completely changing that man's life forever. Stories like this are what keep the hobby exciting and accessible, because unlike collecting ancient coins or medieval treasures which require enormous wealth and connections to even have a chance at acquiring, modern era coins can genuinely show up anywhere, in anyone's change, waiting to be discovered by someone with sharp eyes and enough knowledge to recognize what they're looking at, and that democratic quality, that sense that anyone could potentially find a fortune, makes coin collecting uniquely thrilling among collecting hobbies. The 2007 double denomination error has also generated significant interest from museums and educational institutions, because it's such a perfect teaching example of how minting errors occur, how quality control can fail despite best efforts, and how these mistakes create valuable collectibles that preserve an interesting moment in minting history. And several major numismatic museums have expressed interest in acquiring examples for their permanent displays, which further drives up prices because it means collectors aren't just competing with each other but also with well-funded institutions that want these coins for historical and educational purposes. Now let's talk about what you should do if you think you found a 2007 double denomination error, because this is practical information that could literally be worth millions to you. First and foremost, stop and do not handle the coin any more than necessary, because fingerprints, scratches, and environmental damage can all reduce the grade and therefore the value significantly. Place the coin in a protective holder. A simple cardboard flip or plastic case will work, and make sure you don't clean it or attempt to improve its appearance in any way, because cleaning coins almost always reduces their value, even if it makes them look shinier or prettier to your eyes. Next, you'll want to have the coin authenticated by a professional grading service, And the two most respected companies in the business are Professional Coin Grading Service, known as PCGS, and Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, known as NGC. Both companies have decades of experience, employ expert graders who've seen millions of coins, and use sophisticated equipment to detect counterfeits and altered coins. And while there is a fee for their services, it's absolutely worth it if you genuinely have a rare error coin, because the authentication and grade they provide will be essential for selling the coin for maximum value. Once you have your coin authenticated and graded, you'll receive it back encapsulated in a sealed plastic holder with a label showing the grade, the variety designation, and a unique certification number. And this encapsulated coin, often called a slab in collector terminology, is now ready to be sold through major auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stax Bowers, or Great Collections. These companies specialize in rare coins and have access to the wealthiest collectors and investors in the world, ensuring that your coin gets the exposure and competitive bidding it deserves. The auction process for a coin like the 2007 double denomination error is absolutely thrilling, because you're not just selling to local collectors or casual hobbyists, you're potentially selling to billionaires, museums, investment funds, and serious numismatists who have been waiting years or even decades for a chance to own such a coin, and the bidding can get intensely competitive, starting at maybe $100,000 and then rapidly escalating as multiple bidders refuse to back down, each increment representing tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, until finally the hammer falls and you have a life-changing sum of money that came from a single penny you found in your change. It's important to understand that the $4 million record for a 2007 double denomination error represents the absolute pinnacle of quality and rarity. A specimen in virtually perfect condition, graded MS68 or MS69, with exceptional eye appeal and housed in a premier grading service holder. And while not every example will command that exact price, even specimens in lower grades can sell for hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, because the fundamental rarity of the error type is so extreme that any example is considered a significant numismatic treasure. The discovery of the 2007 double denomination error also highlights how modern minting processes, despite being highly automated and computerized, are still susceptible to human error and mechanical malfunction. And that's actually reassuring for collectors, because it means new errors are constantly being created, new varieties are being discovered, and the hobby remains dynamic and full of possibilities rather than being limited to historic coins from centuries past. Think about the incredible chain of coincidences that had to occur for these error coins to exist. First, penny planchets had to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, near a dime press. Then those planchets had to actually be fed into the press without anyone noticing. Then the coins had to be struck with the dime dies. Then they had to pass through whatever quality control measures were in place without being detected. Then they had to be mixed with normal coins and shipped to banks, and then they had to be distributed into circulation where they could potentially be found. And each step of this chain represents a point where the error could have been caught and the coins destroyed, which makes the few examples that survived and made it into collectors' hands extraordinarily precious. The 2007 double denomination error has also sparked renewed interest in checking pocket change for other potential errors, because if such a dramatic mistake could happen in 2007, what other errors might be lurking in coins from other years? And this has led to discoveries of other valuable varieties, other error types, other overlooked rarities that were hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them. Now, I want you to really think about this for a moment, because it's profound in its implications. You could have spent one of these $4 million coins without ever knowing what you had. You could have dropped it in a charity donation box, left it as a tip, used it in a vending machine, or thrown it away thinking it was damaged or fake. And you would have literally discarded a fortune because you didn't have the knowledge or awareness to recognize what you were looking at. And that's exactly why education in numismatics is so valuable. Not just for the intellectual satisfaction of understanding coins and their history, but for the very practical reason that this knowledge could make you rich beyond your wildest dreams if you encounter the right coin at the right time. The 2007 double denomination penny dime stands as a testament to the enduring excitement of coin collecting, the possibility of extraordinary finds, and the way that simple awareness and knowledge can unlock tremendous value from the most ordinary-seeming objects. And as we close out this discussion, I want to encourage you one final time to check your coins, look through your change, examine your penny jars, go through old collections, because whether it's a 1999 wide AM penny worth over $10 million or a 2007 double denomination error worth $4 million, these treasures are out there. They're real, they're documented, and they're waiting to be discovered by someone exactly like you. The world of error coins is endlessly fascinating, combining history, artistry, economics, and the thrill of the hunt in a hobby that's accessible to anyone with curiosity and determination. And who knows, maybe the next record-breaking discovery will be yours. Maybe you'll be the one standing at an auction watching the bids climb higher and higher for a coin you found in your pocket change. And maybe, just maybe, one innocent-looking penny will completely transform your financial future. Forever. So grab that magnifying glass, start checking those coins, and remember that fortune truly does favor not just the bold, but the educated, the observant, and those who take the time to look closely at the small details that others overlook. Because in the world of rare coins, those tiny details can mean the difference between spending a penny and selling it for millions of dollars.